Good morning, folks. It's Rick Spain with Infinite Grace Ministries with another excerpt of thought and hopefully something that's going to help you because that's what we're here for. Thank you to Philip Reed and Reed Newspapers for sponsoring us. As always, blessings on them, and I know that the Lord will bless them. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to read you a little poem that I wrote, and it's called An Apology of God, or An Apology for God. So when I talk about apology, it's not that God is saying I'm sorry about something or I'm saying that God's sorry. Uh, when you look at apology, sometimes it means to prove a fact, to prove a person, to prove something. So that's what I'm talking about with an apology for God. So I want to start out with reading some scriptures out of Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 21 through 26. And then later on, after I read this, we're going to get into some more and finish out that chapter. But it goes like this, chapter or verse 21, Isaiah 40. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy, spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings, princes to naught and reduces the rulers of the word to nothing. No sooner are they planted, no sooner are they sown, no sooner do they take root in the ground than he blows on them and they wither, and a whirlwind sweeps them away like chaff. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host, one by one, and he calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. That was a little bit choppy on reading, but I think we got through it. So, an apology for God. Listen to this. The Lord is great and greatly to be praised. There's none, no one to compare with him. When he stands alone. All others will fall and bow before him, to whom all must give an account. To consider another or give credence to any other thing is a miscalculation that will fade into nothingness. For my God is a consuming fire who consumes all of my enemies. My hope in him will never be disappointed. There's none, no one to compare with him. All that rise against him are mere dust in the wind. Their hope is built on a foundation of ideas that fade to the truth of who he is. The mirage of their dreams hinders them from that which truly satisfies because of this great mistake. All who consider him will stand after the smoke of the wicked has fallen. There's none, no one to compare with him. In the darkest of times, his light still shines. That which is from eternity cannot be dimmed in any measure. The thirst of him cannot be quenched by any other or no other thing. He's the satisfier of the soul. All who drink from him will walk in his life that can never be extinguished. There's none, no one to compare with him. All hope is built in him. Every dream is founded, facilitated, realized, and enjoyed by and through him. In the end, when all the tallies are calculated, the crowns of any and every achievement will be cast at the feet of him to whom we must all give an account. He is Lord of all and Lord over all. Every knee will bow and every tongue will make this confession to the glory of the Father of all that exists. There's none, no one to compare with him. He will do what he says. There's no possibility for him to do any other way. His character is flawless. To impose any other standard or idea upon him is exposed not in the moment, but in the proof of what remains after all the dust is settled. The voice of opposition will be silenced when the reckoning of his truth stands as the sound of that opposition fades to the reality in the mind and heart of the one who considered this possibility. After all the tests of time, one thing remains: what he said. And his word continues just as it did when it first left his mouth. That's pretty heavy, but I want you to know it's addressed to three groups of people, and that's what I want to talk about this morning. There's three groups of people that this message is for. And these three groups of people include all who were ever created, all who were born, and all who ever breathed the air that this world brings. But they fit in one of these three categories. So the first category is the one that I call the one who scoffs. So I want to go back to Isaiah 40 and verse 27, and it says, "Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord? My cause is disregarded by my God." This is what I call the one who scoffs. There was a professor one time, and he was in his class, and he was teaching creation versus science, and he was proving that creation was myth and science was the way that all things came into existence. And it came to a culmination one day in class, and he stood before the class and he said, "I want to prove something to you today. I've shown you what science has shown, and the proof of how things came into being. But there's a group of people out there that still believe that there's a God who created all this stuff." Well, today I want to test that theory. I'm going to stand on this stage and I am going to ask for proof. God, if you're really there, knock me off of this stage. I'm going to give him 15 minutes. And so as the time began to dwindle, he continued with his speech about science and the greatness of science and how this came about and that came about, and 5 minutes goes by and he continues on with his discourse, and in the between times he would say, "God, are you there?" And he would continue on with his uh, dictation and his truth that came from the science books. And as he goes, 10 minutes passes by and he continues on, and he looks under the book, and he says, "I'm just looking, making sure God's not under there." And so he's walking back and forth on the stage, and the minutes go by as he continues to blaspheme and to uplift science. And 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes. And God, are you up there? You're running out of time. You have less than a minute left. Or can you prove yourself to me and these people? And as he's talking, there's a football player that walks down the hall that hears him talking, and as he hears him talking, he he's curious, so he walks in the room and he sees the professor standing on the stage and challenging God, and all of a sudden he gets just a running start and bam, knocks him right off the stage. And the professor gets up and he's just out of sorts, and he says, "Why did you do that?" And the football player said, "God said he was busy, so he sent me." And that's what we go through, guys. We see this. We see people out there saying, if God's really out there, well, why does this happen? Why does that happen? Where's the proof? It's interesting that we look at God through circumstances most of the time, and what that causes is for us to question who he is. You will never find God in what's around you. And the best you can do is scoff as you look. So there's a second group of people that I want to talk about today. And this is the one who hasn't heard. And in verse 28 of Isaiah 40, it says, "Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom." There's a couple, pardon me, there's a couple of businessmen, and they were both successful. They were salesmen, and it became, say, they were competitors with one another, and so it was interesting to watch them. So the one guy, he was a Christian, went to church, loved God, and he did what God told him. God blessed him. The other man was one that didn't know God. And so he worked really hard, very, very hard. And he was as successful as the other guy, but sometimes the measures he used were not real ethical, not real honest. But he still achieved the end. Uh, but in order for him to carry this great load that was upon himself, every morning he'd take some pills to wake up, and then every night he'd take some pills to go to sleep. This was his normal routine, day in, day out. Go to work, do your thing, be successful. Take the pills. Don't forget the pills. And so as time went on, success didn't mean the same thing to him, but he continued to take the pills. And it got to the point where he'd get by himself and he'd think, "Oh, is this really worth it?" And he even contemplated a couple of times taking the whole bottle of pills, just taking all of them, and whatever happens, happens. If he lives, fine. If not, fine. He had about found his end. As he was working, he began to notice this other guy. This other guy, he seemed like, everything was going okay. He didn't see him having to take any pills. And, he seemed to be content most of the time. And so finally, the guy asked him, he says, what is this what is it that keeps you going? How is it that you have peace? How is it that you can continue in all this and it doesn't bother you like it bothers me? Well, the Christian guy had thought about it. He said he thought many times about talking to this other man about God and about what Jesus did in his life. And so he thought, this is the opportunity. And so he did. He told him, he said, "Well, this is what's happened to me. I accepted what Jesus paid for, and I was restored to relationship with God. Now I have a walking relationship with God. I talk to him every day. I read his Bible, and this is what brings this peace." And he offered this to this other guy, and the other guy thought, "Man, this sounds like a dream come true." And so he accepted it, and it changed his life. And from that point on, he had a joy that couldn't be described. He had a peace that passed understanding. He had a renewed focus and vision for life. And so they were sitting, eating dinner one night together, and he said, "You know, this is so great. This change that's happened in my life. Thank you so much. I am so happy that you found this. If you had not found this, we'd both be lost." And the man thought for a second. He said to the other guy, he says, "Well, I've known this for years and years. I've known God for years." And the other guy looks at him with piercing eyes, a distraught heart, and a distraught voice with these words. He said, "Why did you wait so long to tell me?" You know, today, I don't want to miss this opportunity, because you may have heard of God. You may have heard from the scoffers. You may have seen the evidence that is around you. But I want you to know that there's one whose eye is on you, one whose eye has never left you, and one whose heart goes out to you, that he desires to be in your life. And I want you to know all you have to do is say yes to what Jesus paid for, because this message is for you. Now, there's a third group of people that I want to talk about here, and we're going to finish out this chapter with this thought. In verse 28, it says, "Do you not know, have you not heard, the Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, young men stumble and fall. But those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." There was a group of artists that got together, and there was a contest that they that the contest was to create the greatest picture of tranquility. And so you had uh, people that were painting pictures of a beach, or painting pictures of majestic mountains, or of the dove flying out of heaven, you know. But the one who won the greatest picture of tranquility was one of a massive storm. It was incredible, the clouds and the lightning that was coming out, and you could hear the thunder in the picture. It was so graphic. And in the distance there was a nest, and you could see in this nest there was an eagle, and this eagle was setting in this big nest. And underneath the wings, there were three eaglets. And these eaglets were fast asleep. This, my friends, is tranquility. It is not to have peace on the outside, but it's to have the peace that passes understanding that's on the inside. When you put your hope and your trust in Him, not for what He can do, but because of who He is. Remember, we just read the apology of God. that He is greater than anything that you're ever going to face. Our problem is we tend to put God in the situation, in the problem. We mix Him together with it. God, thank you. I'm going to trust you in this situation. When the situation doesn't change, what we do, we say, well, you know what, God is, this is not a tranquil place for me, Rick. This is not a place where I feel renewed. It's because you got your eyes on the wrong thing. Remember the eagle in that nest. You can be just like that eaglet. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. You can rest under His wings. Have a great day.